Hello everyone, this is Old Soldier. Today I'm going to review the Back to Basics Grain Mill by Victorio. I have received requests on how to store dry foods, including flour. I recommend storing wheat instead of flour due to increased shelf life if stored properly. If you do store wheat instead of flour, how do you use it? Well, certainly you can soak the wheat and make wheat berries that are edible, but to make flour, you'll need to mill it somehow. Could you mill it with a couple of large rocks? Yep. Certainly could. People did it for thousands of years, but this day and age is probably not the most efficient technique. This is the Back to Basics Grain Mill. I purchased this about 10 years ago for about $45. I checked this morning online and it has almost doubled in price since then. There are other more heavy-duty grain mills. The Country Living Grain Mill comes to mind, but that is 4 to 5 times the cost of the Back to Basics Grain Mill. You can use the Back to Basics Grain Mill to mill wheat, rice, corn, oats, beans, herbs, and other things. Today we're going to mill hard red wheat. This mill does not produce the finest flour, but it's fine enough. And with hard red wheat, it produces a kind of coarse yet pretty tasty dark colored bread. Assembly of the mill is straightforward and intuitive. Believe me, if I can do it, anybody can do it. I'm going to simply take the wheat, pour it into the hopper. After that, simply a matter of cranking the handle. You can kind of see the consistency. It makes fairly fine powder. Not super fine, but good enough. Here we have the final product. Surprise, surprise, 2 or 3 cups of wheat provides 2 or 3 cups of flour. And you can see it's a little bit coarser than white flour you buy in a store, but still perfectly usable. I had to stop and mess with the filming, but to do that took me by myself less than 25 minutes. And the additional plus of that is I did get a slight arm workout from it. So now that we have the flour, let's make some bread. So my battery died. I had to wait for it to recharge, but basically I took the flour that I made. The recipe that I used called for 3.5 cups, and I also had probably a cup and a half, maybe 2 cups left over. Added 2 teaspoons of yeast and a half cup of hot water. Let the yeast sit for about 5 minutes. Added it to the flour and a tablespoon and a half of salt and kneaded it. And I've just let it sit for 2 hours to rise. I'm going to push it back down and continue on with the process. Okay, dough is into the pan and it's pushed down, and I'm going to let it rise again for about another 45 minutes before it goes into the oven. And into the oven for 45 minutes. And that's the final product. This kind of turned into a baking episode, but it just goes to show the Back to Basics Grain Mill does work and does make good bread. So it's a little bit smaller. Like I said, it's kind of a coarser, smaller bread. It doesn't make quite as big of bread loaves as white flour, but nonetheless, the grain mill does its job. Anyway, that's my review of the Back to Basics grain mill. This is Old Soldier out.